What are you doing? Did you have fun at WrestleMania? WrestleMania 37 Night One is in the books, and here today to talk about it on our WrestleMania Pop Culture Cosmos style post-game wrap-up for Night One of WrestleMania is a good man indeed. He has been on consistently for us as one of our preeminent experts on the sports entertainment world, per se, as they like to say in the WWE universe. You got to catch his show, the PVD Cast, each and every time out. If you can't find it on any podcast outlet, and I don't know why you can't because it's just the PVD Cast, go to thepvdcast.com. It is John Orlando. My friend, Night One is in the books. I'm so happy that you could make it here tonight. I know it's late for you. The night is just getting started for me. But I want to hear your thoughts so far on WrestleMania as a whole. It was so funny because they kept going 1 year, 1 month, 1 day since we have not been able to wrestle in front of a crowd. And we're all ready to go. And right after the America the Beautiful, it started to rain.
You know, that is, to be honest, probably the most surprising part of WrestleMania. Because let's be honest, we have gotten so used to, it's an outdoor stadium, no big deal. You know, because we've never had any major weather delays, have we, in the history of WrestleMania? No. So I think that was probably the most shocking.
Then you got to wrestle in the rain. Now I know there's a fan safety issue with lightning and all that, but it was just going to be rain. Wrestle in the rain. Wrestle in the rain.
Yeah. Just change up how you're going to wrestle and just go that way.
Exactly. Brawl in the crowd for a couple hours. That would work. But it was only a half hour delay. So that, it's not really that big of a deal, but it started off, because they really want to put on a showcase at the end for the ladies. And I compliment the WWE for doing that with the title match for Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks. That was going on last. So what came up first was the WWE Raw title. That was up for grabs between Drew McIntyre, and I'll tell you what, it was, I don't know about the match between Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. I think it was something that for me was kind of clunky. I think at times a little bit clumsy, but very physical. And I thought it was solid, but not spectacular.
I would agree. I thought it was really solid, but I would go out on a limb and say that I think it was one of the better matches tonight.
Yeah, that may not be the best thing overall to say.
That's true. No,
it was okay for what it was. It was okay for what it was. And I just want to tell everybody, if you did not see WrestleMania, Bobby Lashley came out on top and victorious for it. I mean, I'm not a big, huge fan of either one. I had a feeling Bobby Lashley would be somebody that was going to be kept strong. But you got to feel for Drew McIntyre, we don't know yet if he's going to be over with a crowd because he didn't get to win in front of a crowd.
Yeah, and that surprised me because I really had penciled in that I figured Drew McIntyre would walk away victorious because they owe him that WrestleMania moment, so to speak. Yeah. And so I thought, we're definitely going to get it. We're going to see if the crowd will react to him. And here out of, kind of nowhere, there was the distraction. And then Bobby Lashley managed to get the hurt lock on Drew McIntyre, and he gets the victory. Gerald in the past have not been a fan of Bobby Lashley. I have liked him in the Hurt Business. I've been a fan of that group.
Yeah.
I feel that they disintegrated the group a little too early for my liking. But I thought it was a pretty solid match, though, especially with two big guys that are all about the power.
It's so funny because for 10 minutes they were into factions with the Hurt Business and Retribution and all that, and flash forward a couple months later and no more factions, I guess. So it was kind of funny how that worked out. But I think if they want to go a little bit more with Bobby Lashley, I don't know if he's their long-term planning, but he is their champion for now. Again, I was kind of surprised that they didn't give Drew McIntyre his signature win to see if he's someone that the company can build around. So that was kind of weird how that worked out. But you know what? If that's the way they want to go, it still leaves a lot for speculation on who is going to be the face of Raw going forward. Mm-hmm. If I guess it's right now, it's Bobby Lashley with the win. again, it was, like I said, clumsy at times, not smooth, but it was very physical. If you're really into physical matches like that, so it was like I said, it was okay. And that's a problem with, I think, overall for night one for me. If you wanted something that was really outstanding, there was some moments, but not as many as I would like. So if an okay match, like you said, was one of the better matches on the card, that's not saying much for the card. But again, it's night one. We'll see what happens further. But the next matchup was a tag team turmoil match for the number one contendership for the women's tag team titles. And it was won by, I think I should have gone on DraftKings because a lot of my predictions were right this evening. And I'm not patting myself on the back, even though it sounds like I am, but I should have just gone on DraftKings. I might have won $25,000. But anyways, it was Tamina and Natalya coming out with victory. I don't like the way the setup was. I just did think it was more like a tag team gauntlet match. I think they should have just because people were going, what's going on with this? And they really didn't explain it very well going into it. What's the turmoil in regards to this? Why didn't you just go ahead and say it was a gauntlet match? What were your thoughts on this tag team turmoil match? With all these 4 teams, with Billie Kay, Carmella, the Riot Squad, and also as well Natalya, and also as well they had Lana and Naomi. Lana and Naomi. What were your thoughts on this match? For me, like I said, it was unfortunately time that could have been better spent.
You talk about a clumsy match. This was clumsy. There was a lot of things that were not smooth. I feel like this match would have been, if they were going to do it in the gauntlet format, they should have been quick. Yeah. Those eliminations should have been quicker. It seemed like they spent way too much time with some of these eliminations. Should have been quicker. Look, I think it's clearly evident that this women's tag team division is just not working, Gerald. No. You have one team that's really not a very good team to begin with, and then you have all these other just hodgepodge tag teams. Yeah. Lana and Naomi.
Why do you think they have always the most competitive teams to Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are something comprised of a champion and another top contender? You have Rhea Ripley and Asuka. You have Charlotte Flair and Asuka. You have Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. You have those. They're the only teams that can be anywhere consistent to put off a decent match, or be believable. I think of any of these teams, Natalya and Tamina, just because of their sheer size factor, can possibly be believable enough to at least get a victory over Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. But again, I think you're absolutely right. The women's tag team division in the WWE right now is pretty porous at best.
Yes, agreed. They really need to do something. And I don't even see them doing it in NXT, where they're not building any female tag teams even in NXT. So I feel like in a year from now, or a year and a half from now, or 2 years from now, we're just moving up these mediocre tag teams from NXT to the main roster anyways for the women's tag division. So to me, it's a bleak outlook. I'm sorry to sound very negative, but in that division, it's not looking good.
No, it's not looking good right now, and I think that was very evident on display on a major platform, which to me, I think should have been on Friday's SmackDown instead of on WrestleMania Night 1. I think the Andre the Giant Battle Royale, or maybe the tag team SmackDown titles should have been on the line maybe instead as far as the men's side, because you see the weaknesses right now that there needs to be a lot more development on the women's tag team division. And I think that's something that they need to focus on, like you said, within the next year to two. So hopefully they can get that, because it was not too long ago, 2-3 years ago, it was actually pretty decent. Now there's just some, unfortunately right now, they just don't have that kind of depth.
And real quickly, if we may, I'd like to say, though, that one thing that did surprise me with the WrestleMania experience was Friday Night SmackDown. I didn't anticipate it to be as good as it turned out to be. Sure, that tag match could have been a little bit better. The Battle Royal, I know it's kind of a throwaway match. It always is every year, but I thought it was fine. But the promos to get you excited, Edge's promo and Roman Reigns' promo and the video vignettes of Big E and Seth Rollins, I thought that they did a really good job of getting me interested in WrestleMania. Where a few days ago, I don't know if that was the case with me.
You know, we had this running thing where you and I were talking about whether or not WrestleMania should be a 1 or 2 night event. We had this conversation. You know, if you incorporate it right and you have Friday Night SmackDown, you could turn WrestleMania conceivably into a 3-night event and help get even better ratings for WWE. I mean, obviously, it felt like a WWE WrestleMania light on Friday Night SmackDown. So if you wanted to go ahead and conceivably continue that and make WrestleMania a 3-night event, you know, I mean, you're already going ahead and making a 2-night event. Why not make it 3?
Yeah, right. At this point, why not?
But, you know, I'll say that in 10 years down the line, it'll be like a 17-day event, you know, back to back to back to back. But I digress. Up next was AJ Styles and Omos, even though it's spelled Omos. It's Omos. Defeated Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, better known. You know, I mean, the New Day. They defeated the New Day to win the Raw Tag Team Championships. This was a cut and dry, big man, small man type tag team. The smaller guy, AJ Styles, goes out there, works with the New Day. And to me, it started off, I knew exactly where this match was going as soon as Michael Cole said the words, the New Day could possibly be the greatest tag team of all time. And he said it not once, not twice, but 3 times. And also the color bands, what was it? Was it Corey?
Corey Graves.
Yeah, Corey Graves was on there saying it too, and you know the analyst was saying it too. So, you know, you kept hearing that over and over and over, and I'm like, okay, that's the kiss of death right there for you. You can tell once you start saying the greatest of all time, you knew something was happening, and this was a standard, typical match where you had big man and small man. Small man works the entire match. Big man comes in and finishes off in relatively easy fashion. I like the Omos factor. Omos seems like he's got a great presence. He I think it's kind of weird where his ring outfit is not really a ring outfit. But again, you know, it was what it was. It wasn't going to be a great scientific match or a crowd pleasing match, but it was there just to show off it was there as a showcase for Omos.
I was surprised the fans popped when he got the tag and he came in. And then when he won, you know, because in fact, I didn't write down what his finish was, but he got the pin on Kofi. Yeah. And I was surprised at the reaction. I was like, oh, okay. But I agree with you, Gerald. I felt that this match, it was fine. It was fine for what it was. And that's where I agree with you. But I think they could have shortened it some, and it would have made it a little bit better if they just shortened it down just a little bit. Because again, it made it somewhat like you knew what was going to happen. And
that's for a lot of WrestleMania matches.
True.
If you can make it shorter, 2 to 5 minutes shorter on a lot of these matches, not only tonight but as a whole, you know, maybe you could go ahead and make a lot better quality matches. But this is something that was not unexpected. I think that you heard the big pop for Omos. I think just the fact that they have not seen him outside of just a couple of house show appearances for, you know, in Florida. I mean, if you've been lucky enough to see him, but for the most of the fans out there, they have not seen him in action. And of course, he came off as a big monster type, and we'll see where it goes from there. What Vince McMahon wants to do, because he loves the big monster type, heels that can go ahead and do some damage. Again, like I said, this match was done as soon as Michael Cole said the words, the greatest tag team in history, you know, for the New Day. So you knew that was going to happen. But again, it was what it was. It was not unexpected, where AJ Styles does all the work, and then you have Omos doing the finish. So it was what it was, and I don't think it was anything unexpected.
I'll tell you though, you mentioned every match could be shortened 2 to 5 minutes in WrestleMania. I will say this, Gerald. I think one match that I think probably you're going to talk about next, I would go for an extra 2 or 5 minutes, and that was Cesaro and Seth Rollins. I thought that match was fantastic.
Well, that came up next, and that match was the best match of the night.
Yes,
I do want to put the last match right along with it. I thought that was a great match as well, but I think that was the best match of the night. I kind of liked it where it was at as far as the amount of minutes, because they were pulling off so many unique moves And this Seth Rollins reminds me of the pre-knee injury Seth Rollins, where he was doing a lot of unique and fantastic offense when he had his, I think, first or second run as world champion, just before he tore up his knee. And he was doing things that nobody else on the planet was doing, and he was being called the best worker on the planet at that point in time. And to his credit, he did some sensational things. Cesaro was right there with him, but it did lead to the spot with the, I don't know if it was 22. I think Michael Cole was counting very quickly on that one, but it was not 23 giant swings, more like 18 to 20, I think is what I saw. But even if that's the case, he after the big giant swing of rotations 20 plus times or whatever, he did go ahead and pin Seth Rollins. And I'm very happy for Cesaro. And Cesaro needed this, obviously, to put him in a spotlight after all these years. I know Seth Rollins is still going to be coming around and getting some type of push at some point in time when they get back around to him. But for me, I think, again, it was the best match of the night and a showcase for both of these guys.
I agree. And like I said, I would have loved to have a few more minutes, but it was fine the way it was because they were pulling out all the stops. They were working hard. And, Cesaro, he's had so many starts and stops in his WWE career, but he's a workhorse. He's phenomenal. And I got to be honest, too. I think that Seth Rollins is very good at reinventing himself because he's kind of got the Monday Night Messiah, but it's toned down a little bit. It's maybe a diet, if you will, Monday Night Messiah, but it's still working. He's still swarthy and smart alecky, and you still don't like him. So he's doing fantastic character work. And yeah, this was, to me, I'm saying this was the best match of the night.
I agree with you on that wholeheartedly. I think 100% it was. And I think that they needed to send out a message to the guys in the back and to everyone in the back as far as to the WWE that both these guys should be, I don't know if you want to say main eventers, but at least considering of higher slots on the food chain and higher slots on the card. And I think they did, both of them, just that with their performances tonight. And like you said, the best match of night one. Coming up next after that, as far as the matches are concerned, was the steel cage match between Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon. It was there. It was not unexpected. Shane McMahon did his requisite bump from the top of the cage, which everybody and their grandmother was expecting. And it led to a victory for Braun Strowman, which was not also unexpected. I don't think this did any favors for Braun Strowman. I think, again, it was something that I talked about on the preview that we did on the Friday show, where I said, again, for the umpteenth time, Shane McMahon being on this platform takes away a spot from somebody who maybe works all year for this. So a wrestler probably that could have been in that type of spot, unfortunately did not get that spot because of it. I know there was also some logistical errors that I think that were in there. I mean, if you're sitting outside of the cage, doesn't matter if he's got my hand or not. There's enough sweat that I could just slip my hand through and just fall to the bottom of the cage, fall to the floor. I mean, just some things like that as far as common sense are concerned. And of course, there's got to be a toolbox on the very top of the cage. Just happened randomly. Just happened to be there. What about that? I mean, again, this was a match that I think was unnecessary, and unfortunately, it went 11 minutes too long. Not 2 to 5 minutes, but it went 11 minutes too long for me.
Well, I was surprised that the bump Shane McMahon took was not more extreme, because I think in previous years he's done some crazy stuff.
Yeah,
and so for me, what bump he did take, which was kind of like, if you will, a hip toss kind of body slam type of throw from the top of the cage, I was like, well, that hurt, no doubt. I'm not saying it didn't hurt, but I was like, he's done worse, So,
but the thing is, if he does a bump that would get you going, he would have won the match, because if you throw him off the top of the cage to the floor, he wins the match.
Right. I guess I didn't know what to expect with this match.
Yeah.
I feel like the bloom is off the rose when it comes to Braun Strowman. I don't think he's getting a serious run with any title soon. I I don't think that they know what to do with him.
Yeah.
And that stinks because, obviously anybody that makes it to the WWE wants to have a big impact and make a big or have a big role and make big money. And I think at this point now, what do you do with Braun Strowman? Because again, like Cesaro, so many starts and stops.
Yeah.
What
and
now?
then you have this big, huge 6'7", 350-pound monster who looks like in terrific shape, who could be someone that could be something for you, but then you just saddled him with a stupid gimmick that Shane McMahon. So now you've stuck him with that label. So a lot of fans are going to be just not giving him any credit at all, no matter what he does down the road. So I agree with you 100%. I think this is another calculated error. And again, it was on a platform where Shane McMahon doesn't need to be on. This is a match that'd be fine for maybe King of the Ring or maybe even SummerSlam, but keep it off of WrestleMania. I think that should be a place for the most part, something that's going to bring in fans. And Shane McMahon doing a wild bump is not going to bring in fans anymore. I think it's done. It's over with. And I think at some point in time, you just got to realize, you know what? I don't think I need my son. As Vince McMahon should probably say, I think I need to take my son off this big moment.
Yeah, agreed. And, bottom line, you have Elias and Jackson Riker. Elias hasn't done anything of note in forever. That's the guy you could have plugged in there with Braun and have two bigger guys just beat the snot out of one another rather than having Shane involved in this silly mini feud.
Oh no, but he took that 4-foot bump off the cage into the floor. He was out for 10 minutes. So basically, again, suspending disbelief. I know is something you're supposed to do when it comes to professional wrestling. But there's suspending disbelief, and then there's suspending disbelief, and that was suspending disbelief indeed. That entire match setup, but again, it was probably the low point. I think I'm gonna say it's a tie for me as far as low point, because that match and the tag team turmoil match were both very disappointing, but not unexpectedly so. The next match for me I want to talk about was the match that kind of surprised me in ways, and that was Damien Priest and Bad Bunny, who defeated The Miz and John Morrison, who are now, again, they did a great job in this match. But it's something back to where you and I talked about as far as I think past about The Miz. The Miz has a great future outside the ring. He doesn't have a great future inside the ring because he already looks awful. He's not believable. I mean, people see him as a cowardly heel. John Morrison is a hanger-on, and those two together, they're not anywhere entertaining anymore as a tag team, period. Even though they have a string of tag team championship victories to their credit. They go into this match, and they made and helped make Bad Bunny, who deserves a lot of credit, he worked very hard, even though he has the skinniest arms known to mankind. I mean, I think I look like Hulk Hogan jacked up on roids compared to him. So I want to hear your thoughts. Again, it was a great performance by Bad Bunny. He looked like he was being coached very, very well. I want to get that out of the way. But your thoughts on this as a showcase for Damien Priest, and to see if he can give you anything going forward.
Well, and I think he was the one that was overshadowed in this match. I think
because he spent so much time out of the ring.
Right. We saw nothing from Damien Priest for about 3/4 of that match. And what we did see wasn't impressive. I mean, it was kind of, if this is a showcase for Damien Priest, then they totally dropped the ball and they messed this all up. I agree. I was impressed that Bad Bunny didn't look as bad as I thought he would in the ring. I also agree that I feel like Morrison should also be kind of separated from this tag team because I feel he still has some potential. I think that The Miz is kind of much like Braun and much like Cesaro. I think he's kind of, in this start-stop type of booking as well.
Well, you knew bad things were gonna happen when you come to the ring as The Miz and you have your WWE knee pads upside down.
Right.
Or is that a precursor that means you're going to be looking up at the lights and your legs are going to be hanging up in the air because you're getting pinned? Maybe that's what happened. Maybe that's the way he wanted to go ahead. But you look at his knee pads and they were both, not one, but both turned upside down. So I'm like,
I didn't notice that. I did not notice that.
The WWE insignia was an M, not a W. if you look at that. So it's kind of funny. Like I said, maybe he was trying to go ahead and impress himself as he's looking up at the lights for the pin. But I want to go ahead and say again, Bad Bunny, I'm surprised he did so well, but they gave him a lot. And Ms. Morrison, in doing so, has even less believability as a tag team. I agree with you that John Morrison may have something left, and you may want to go ahead and separate those two. But Damien Priest, I don't like his facials. He looked like he was bored and disinterested at times, sitting there on the outside of the ring. And I agree with you. If it was supposed to be a showcase for Damien Priest going forward, I don't think they got it.
No, and I give credit to Damien Priest since coming to NXT and coming to the WWE. He has improved. As a wrestling fan and watching him in his early years in Ring of Honor, I was not a big fan. I thought that the guy was very clunky. I didn't find him believable as a character. I think he's gotten better, and I think he can get better and even be more and show more personality and show more of his skill. But if that was what he was supposed to do tonight, sorry, it didn't happen.
Yeah, it's just something that I think that kind of fell short. Again, I know you got to give the celebrity a lot, but I think it was just a show. If anybody looks good out of this, it's Bad Bunny, which is great. But he's already partying somewhere in Tampa, and he's going to be gone by the weekend. So it's something that I think that you got to give these celebrities some time in the ring. But the problem is, how much time do you give in the ring for your guys, and how much time do you give in the ring for the guy that's a celebrity that people want to see? So it's kind of a difficult balance, and I don't think they played it well enough tonight. And you've destroyed any credibility the Miz and Morrison have left.
Correct. I agree. And I feel like they could have shortened that match down a little bit more as well. But again, I think as you said, Gerald, we could probably say that about a lot of matches if you could trim a couple minutes off.
Yeah, I would have actually trimmed a couple of these. I actually would have trimmed at least 4 of these matches off. I would have actually trimmed a couple of these matches entirely, and then put out there was enough people on the roster that were not performing this weekend that you could go ahead and have better matches with, and that people would be more excited about. But that's another story for another day. And then last but not least was a very, very solid match, which I enjoyed, with Bianca Belair defeating Sasha Banks. And I give Sasha Banks all the credit for not only, letting and allowing, Bianca Belair to get the pin, but allowing her to look very good in doing so. She wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. Again, just a great performance by both ladies. I thought it was a very, very solid match. For me, it was second best match of the night. And I think they deserve the spot as the main event in Night One. And I think this match earned it for them.
I thought the match was really good. I think we talk about showcasing people. I think this was a great showcase for Bianca Belair. Yeah. While I am not a fan of the character, I will just say that right out of the gates. She did a heck of a job. So I will give credit where credit is due. That the military press and then walk up the stairs, that was unbelievable. I mean, just the amount of strength and how just delicate you would have to be to pull that off, because it just takes one little centimeter to be off, and then that whole thing could turn disastrous, Gerald. Hey, we're bringing in some new talent, whether it's on the male side or on the female side. Bianca Belair's coming in. She's fresh. She's new. Let's try her with the SmackDown title and see where it goes. So, again, I thought it was a really good match too. And we'll just see what happens here, on the other side of the coin tomorrow night with the Raw Women's Championship, because there's been some people that have said, do you switch both those titles at WrestleMania, or do you, if one wins?
I'm a huge Asuka fan.
Right.
But I don't. You've made her look extremely weak, and even more extremely weaker. In fact, I think we covered this on the show. My co-host on the Friday show, I don't know if you heard it or not, her winning percentage for the year right now as the champion is 12%. So, I mean, that's something that you need to take notice. Plus, she's looked weak the past 2 weeks with getting a desk thrown in her face and then taking the loss on Monday. I have a feeling they're going to let Asuka win. I think just because of that, because that's usually the scenario in pro wrestling. You make the whoever's going to win, you don't make look good weeks in a row. I mean, obviously there's been times where it's been changed otherwise, but I think Asuka, you need to keep strong. You need to make sure that she is going to stay as someone who's going to be strong. Even if you drop the title, even if she drops the title a month or two from now, you still got to go ahead, at least have her have a strong performance. And I think that she's very capable of doing so. I think Rhea Ripley, I think there's a great future for her in the WWE, but you also have Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair lurking somewhere in Tampa. There was wild rumors that Becky Lynch was going to show up tonight for night one, and she didn't, which leads to speculation what might happen tomorrow in night two. So let's get to that right now before we head on out, my friend. And once again, I'm speaking to John Orlando from the PVD Cast, who's staying up very late with us, and we truly appreciate it. We have a nice audience that's watching us right now on Pop Culture Cosmos on Twitch and YouTube. We truly appreciate everyone doing so. But before we head on out, my friend, your thoughts on your thoughts on night one overall, and your thoughts coming up for night two.
For night one, I feel like this was an okay WrestleMania.
Yeah. Okay.
But see, I feel like you shouldn't be happy with an okay WrestleMania, because the major four should be, if this is a regular pay-per-view, they should be up here. Yep. You know what I mean? And I feel like while it was okay, there was one really bad match, and that was the tag team turmoil match. And there were several that were. Yeah, and I could see where you I definitely could go, but I kind of took a little more leniency with Braun and Shane. So I thought it was an okay WrestleMania. What am I looking forward to tomorrow? Well, I feel like I'm hoping that night two is going to give us more wrestling action that is more entertaining, that we get kind of a better flow to the show, and that hasn't, obviously, due to Mother Nature, that was the flow I felt was interrupted a little bit tonight. But yeah, I think that we should have some more great wrestling action. I'm hoping that triple threat for the Universal title, I hope that is as good as it's billed to be. I hope that Asuka and Rhea Ripley tear down the house. I actually feel like Big E and Apollo Crews could be a really good match that is going to fly under the radar. And so I think with just those three that I'm looking forward to, if everything happens the way it happens, I think we're in for a good, awesome night two for WrestleMania.
I'm hoping as well, and I'll tell you what, it's been just so great talking to my friend. Once again, it's John Orlando from the PVD Cast. I'm still looking forward to a great night two. I know I'll have Noah Ian Fine from the Hunnick Outcast here tomorrow night to wrap up night two with me. But before we head on out, my friend, I want you to give a big plug for your show, the PVD Cast, what you've been up to with it, and what you got that people can look forward to wherever they get their podcasts.
Well, it's really funny that we're talking about WrestleMania, because last Thursday I dropped the WrestleMania preview show involving myself and a couple of friends, DJ Joey Blaze and Ringside Rand, talking about our predictions for tonight and for tomorrow night. And
how'd they go, by the way? How'd they go?
How'd they go? Actually, they've gone. I got to be honest. I started off being the one with the most correct predictions, but by night's end, it's all evened out. So no one has a big advantage or a big winning percentage, so to speak, so far. So we'll see if that trend continues tomorrow. But we got that coming up. Of course, we're going to do a wrap-up show as well this week. But prior to that, some conversations with some absolutely fascinating guests. George Stover, who was a independent actor who's worked a lot with John Waters and Don Dohler in Maryland. He sat down with me and we talked about his nearly 5 decades in independent filmmaking. Had a lot of great guests over the past few weeks. So check it out at pvdcast.com. Or wherever you find podcasts, you can find it there. Just type in PVD Cast, and you should be able to find it at all those places like, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely. Please catch it indeed. Or the pvdcast.com. You got to check out his show, the PVD Cast, wherever you get your podcast. It's truly a sensational show. I've actually managed to finagle my way onto the show. So you got to catch that episode, plus all the other great episodes that he has there. So please catch it today. the PVD Cast. Although actually Jeff Dwoskin might be better. He gets most of the credit for being on the show. I just happened to sneak in there right after your commercials, probably. But from what I remember, I think I was okay. I think
you were good, Gerald. You were good. You were good.
Okay, it was more than 30 seconds, but no, I appreciate it, my friend, just being on the show. But I'll tell you what, it is the PVD Cast. Please check it out today at thepvdcast.com. But John, it's been sensational having you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I'd love to tell you that we can make this a tradition, but they're going to go back to a one-night deal. So I'll tell you what, we will probably going to go ahead and maybe, if I remember, I would love to do a round. Oh, actually, if I'm alive by then, because you never know one day or the next on this planet. Yeah. If everything goes well, let's do a roundtable right after WrestleMania in Texas, because Steve Austin, of course, was on today talking about next year in Texas. So I would love to have a roundtable with you and be very much a part of it. Of course, leading up to the event, going to have you here. And of course, the red carpet is open for you to come at any point in time this year talking about pop culture. So please, I'd love you being part of the show, and cannot thank you.
Well, thank you again, Gerald. I appreciate it. I love coming on the Pop Culture Cosmos, and thanks for tuning in, folks.
Thanks for tuning in, indeed. Once again, it's John Orlando from the PVD Cast, pvdcast.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, John, it's been a okay night one. Not exactly what the WWE should have been looking for, but maybe the rain was the ominous sign for it. But you know what? I'm looking forward to an even better night 2 at WrestleMania, and we'll be back tomorrow night right here at the Pop Culture.